Welcome, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the Town of Ossining, the Town Board meeting for September 12th, 2017. If everybody could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember DeTore,
Present.
Councilmember Wilshire,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg. Oh, and we
And-
also have our councilperson Feldman.
Present.
And I'm
you.
here as well. Thank you.
Okay, this evening we have a special presentation with the Austin Junior League team and coaches.
Okay. Before we do that, and I meant to ask everybody to remain standing, but we're all sitting now, and that's okay too. I was hoping that we could just have a moment of silence. This past Wednesday, Margaret Peggy Langlois, Ossining resident and mother of former town supervisor Sue Donnelly, passed away at the age of 92. Mrs. Langlois was an incredible, accomplished woman who will be fondly remembered by her 4 sisters, 6 children, 9 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren, and her many friends in the community. Please join me in a moment of silence for Peggy Langlois. Thank you. So tonight, I am very excited to share with you that we are going to begin with a special presentation to our JCYS 13 and 14-year-old Ossining Juniors Little League team, who, along with their coaches, are fresh off another exceptional season. You can see it in their faces. It's pretty incredible. Our Ossining Juniors were New York State champions this year. Woohoo! And they then went on to play in the East Regional Tournament, which includes teams from Maine to Maryland, where they came in second place, which is unbelievable. So just to put that in perspective, out of 1,000 teams in the country who participated, Ossining was one of the top 10, with a record of 11-2 overall. Is that right? Did I get that right? Okay, I'm just looking to make sure. Okay. You guys continue to make us proud year after year. And we, along with Trustee John Codman from the Village of Ossining, as well as, from the Village of Ossining Board, as well as New York State Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, who I'm sure you all know very well, because of one of the members of your team, want to properly honor you tonight. And we're also going to honor your parents, not with certificates, but just with love and appreciation. And maybe you, before we start honoring you, you can all help by giving me, helping me give a round of applause to all the parents who have helped get you to all the games, supported you in all the games, make sure you were fed, got enough sleep, got your homework done, and still were human beings every single day, and were active members of your community. So let's give a hand to the parents. All right, so I know that we all have a whole lot of certificates to give out. I'm going to first invite up Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff to the podium if she would like to say a few words. And then we're going to do this all together after Trustee John Codman comes up. He'll say a few words, and then we'll all give you the guys the certificates together, and we'll call you each up one at a time, okay?
Okay, to the team and the coaches, congratulations. First of all, it is wonderful to know that you won the state championships because you've been working very hard to achieve that goal. And this year was it. It was really great. Were there 2 years when you were runner-up? I'm trying to remember. 2 years. So, the teams seem to get better. And then you went on the regional level, and it just seems like every team that you play, don't they have more expertise and it gets harder as you go along? So the fact that you almost did it, you're there. I don't know what happens next year, but you have to have lots of wonderful goals for next year. But congratulations on behalf of the New York State Assembly. We have certificates, and just want to congratulate you for a job well done because we're so proud of you. Each one of you, you've done such a great job, and may you continue your wonderful baseball efforts as you go forward. And, there may be other sports in your life that you get engaged with now. Is baseball over with at the moment?
No.
It never's over with.
Never will.
Say the parents. It's always there. You're always working on it. But I just want to say congratulations. Job well done.
Okay, right. Don't go too far, Sam. Okay. Yeah. That's good.
So I'm here on behalf of Mayor Garrity and the rest of the village trustees. Want to congratulate you on really just a great season. Obviously, you accomplished a lot, but I think that collective effort is something that you'll all learn to appreciate, not just now, but later in your life. You're not all going to be professional baseball players, but I think that what you've all accomplished together is something you'll always remember, and I hope that you'll keep that close in your heart, because when you get to be my age, you'll think back and you'll go, "Wow, man, we did something really cool," and that's what you all did. And Ossining is really proud of you, and I'm happy to be here tonight to give you the certificates and to let you know that. Today is your day in the village of Ossining. So
Right.
Thanks so much.
All right, you guys wanna come over and figure this out? All right, so I think what we'll do is. Got a mic. Okay, great. Okay, so why don't we just, I can just call them out. I think I have them in alphabetical order, and I'm hoping you have them in the same order. Okay, you guys have them all the same. Okay, so we have separate individual ones for each player, and we're going in alphabetical order. So Joey Bastinas, is that right? Okay. All right. Congratulations on behalf of the town, the village, and I'll shake your hand. Okay, and why don't you just stand right up here, so then we're going to take a picture at the end, like right back behind here, and we'll have everybody kind of line up. Does that work? Let's see if we can make that work. Okay. Okay, and next up, Matthew Capio. Did I say it right? Hopefully. Okay, Matthew, congratulations. Okay. You guys want to, do you want to give out some? I can see the names and you can give, we're good? Okay, all right, you're fine? So keep going, okay. Okay, Nicholas Cashillon. Congratulations. There you go. Okay, Aiden Curry. Congratulations. There you go. Jack DeAngelis. Good job, Jack. Nicely done. This name sounds familiar. Dan Galef. Joking. Gotta get one kiss out of that. Come on, it's your grandma. All right. Shane Harrigan. Congratulations. AJ Minicchio. Congratulations. Gino Minicchio. Kyle Monahan. Congratulations. Okay. Massimo Stinziani. Did I get close? Close? Am I good? Congratulations. Okay. Tej, right? Tej? Is that right? Verma? Okay. Congratulations. Great job. I should have practiced beforehand. Eric Yost. Okay. And we cannot and will not forget the coaches because they are the backbone of a great team. Right, you guys? You're going to give it up for the coaches, right? We have Jim Curry. Congratulations, Jim. Greg Galiff. There's that name again. Come on up, Greg. Congratulations. What happened? We got one more. Pat Yost. Come on up, Pat. Pat's got the banner. Congratulations. Awesome. I just like to recognize another elected official up here with us today, which is Greg Galiff, school board trustee. Thanks, Greg. Many years of service. Did we get everybody? I feel like there's one left over. Is that, you don't know? It's an extra? An extra one? Okay. And so there's a day, today is your day in the Village of Austin, is that right? Okay, so you guys all got today. I hope you celebrated every second of it. Okay, so maybe anybody out there want to take a couple pictures? Do you want to take a picture? Okay. They celebrate tomorrow. Yeah, you guys can celebrate tomorrow. Just remember that it was really today. Okay.
Sandy? Yes. Go closer to Greg. Let me just get back in.
Hold on, don't move. Don't.
No, she will. Smile.
Flip phone doesn't take that. Up. Good job, guys. Thank you.
There's Wi-Fi in here now. You've been gone so long. Now there is Wi-Fi.
Finally got on the job. You don't have Kim here tonight.
Does that mean I can take a night off? Can I get a break?
Well, we'll see.
Like I can just relax at a pace?
But tonight be it.
So that's an automatic 20-minute to 30-minute. What? Nothing. It's just our private joke.
All right, so for those of you in might be taking PIG or participation in government, any of you guys out there taking that class this year? Not yet? It's too bad because if you just stayed for this very short meeting, you could get credit for participation in government. That's right. You might want to stay just for the rest of the meeting.
No takers.
On their special day.
Yeah, on their special day, they could. Just imagine they could.
For credit, they don't want to stay.
I don't want to say.
Can't blame her.
Hell no, neither.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, and have a great night. We're just going to wait for another minute, and I think we managed to clear the room. Oh, yeah. You like it that way? Okay.
I couldn't figure what was going on with all of the no place to
Oh, no place to park, yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
way up there near that.
Yeah, we're fighting for spots. We're going to, no, it's okay. I think we're okay. Is our sound okay there, Tom, are you still getting all of them, or are we okay? We're good? Okay. All right, so we're going to continue on with our meeting. Madam Clerk.
We'll move on to announcements.
All right. So I wanted to start off tonight by thanking the Ossining Fire Department and our chief, Angelo Miniccio, just left, for organizing last night's touching and special event, along with the Ossining and Briarcliff Manor Police Departments, the Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps, and the Briarcliff Manor Ambulance Corps. I want to thank all of them for their participation. We all joined together at Lewis Angle Park to commemorate the events of 9/11. Although the horrible events of that day 16 years ago are fresh in our minds, what many of us remember just as clearly is the bravery of our selfless first responders. They put their lives on the line for us that day to make sure that we were safe, and they do so and have done so every day since. Thank you to everyone who was able to join us as well. Also, as a reminder, today is still primary day, and we have our clerk here for just another few minutes, I think, and then she's running to close the polls. But you still have time to vote if you have not already and you are watching this live. The polls are open tonight until 9 p.m. If you're registered to either the Independents or Democratic parties, you have a primary to vote in. Polls are open tonight until 9 p.m. So please remember to exercise your democratic right to vote and participate in your government. Vote at the polling place you usually vote at on Election Day in November. That's where you're going tonight. Work started yesterday, Monday, and will continue probably for at least another 2 weeks on Route 134 and Croton Dam Road at Route 9A, where the New York State Department of Transportation is replacing an underground culvert, which has necessitated a detour. And I look into the audience, and I see our state assemblywoman, and I want to thank her for all her help getting this project to actually take place, because it has been many years in the making. Our highway superintendent reminded me yesterday when I went out to the job site that it started about 11 and a half years ago, and then was on hold for a couple of those years. There was an awful lot of material by the side of the road. That material then went away, and the whole project started up again about a year and a half ago, and we thought it was going to get canceled again. But we managed to power through and get the DOT to follow through on their promise to fix a culvert that needs a fixin', as well as a sewer line of the towns at the same time, which happens to be under the culvert, and fixing up some water mains simultaneously. We also have an opportunity to fix a storm drain, and our highway department has been out there actively working on that project while the road is closed. So we're replacing the stormwater pipe, and I think that I covered everything. So thank you for your patience as we work with the state on this important improvement and long-awaited project. And also, you can see details about how to avoid this intersection and get to where you want to go on the town website, as well as the Ossining Police Department Facebook page, which is very popular. If you haven't already signed up to follow it, please do so. We had an action-packed weekend down at the waterfront this past weekend with Mark Berger and Ride, who had been scheduled to perform back in August as part of the summer concert series. They were actually able to take the stage on this past Friday evening because they had been rained out of their last performance. They played an incredible set. And then on Saturday evening, we had a special benefit concert by Jigsaw for the family of our dear friend Phil Ishmael, who passed away unexpectedly last year. And he had been the head of that band. He and his wife, who was also one of the singers, they performed many concerts at our waterfront, including July 4th concerts, and it was so great to have Jigsaw back. That afternoon, we had Sue Radparvar of Studio 94, who held a free Zumba class as part of our Mind, Body, Spirit Ossining initiative. I'm proud to say I jumped in and got a great workout with some of my new friends. The weather was on our side for sure, and everyone enjoyed a great weekend at Engle Park. Don't forget, we have another concert coming up at the waterfront this Saturday, September 16th, when Ossining High School's Junior States of America will be holding a concert benefiting their scholarship fund, and that begins at 6 p.m., so be sure to stop by, participate in the raffles, check out the food trucks, and enjoy some great live bands. And I think there are going to be some students performing as well. This coming Thursday, September 14th, Senator David Carlucci, in conjunction with Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, will be hosting a senior fair at the Joseph G. Caputo Community Center in Ossining between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. If you are a senior or you have a senior in your life, be sure to stop by this free event and learn about the variety of services and resources available to you in Ossining and in the surrounding area. The town of Ossining will be well represented, with representatives from our senior nutrition program and our assessor's office, and they'll join me to share some information with the attendees about our senior programming and exemptions. And our new receiver of taxes, Holly Perlowitz, who is also with us tonight in the audience, thank you, Holly, will join the town table to introduce herself as well as answer your questions. That very same evening, Thursday, September 14th, will be a very big and busy night in our community. The Ossining documentary and discussion series will be screening Awake, which follows the peaceful protests of the Dakota Access Pipeline in North Dakota. The screening will begin in the Ossining Public Library's Boudars Theater at 6:30 p.m. and will be followed by a panel discussion. All are welcome to this free event. Across town at Richard Wishney Park, which you may know as the Fountain Park next to Chilmark, the Friends of Richard Wishney Park will be hosting a garden soiree beginning at 6 p.m., with all proceeds going to benefit the Friends of the Park. Tickets are $75 each or $100 per couple. Join us around the fountain for wine and beer tastings from Chilmark Wine and Liquors and 6 Degrees of Separation beer tastings and small plates from some of our favorite Ossining eateries and music by Mike and Miriam Risco. On Saturday, on Saturday, September 16th, the Village of Briarcliff will serve as host with the Briarcliff Manor Fire Department of the 11th Annual Westchester County Volunteer Firemen's Association Convention, which will culminate in a parade on Saturday, September 16th at 1 p.m. The parade will start on Pleasantville Road and head down to Law Park, where the marchers and onlookers will be met by a live band. We look forward to celebrating this great honor with the Village of Briarcliff Manor. Also on Saturday, September 16th, the Ossining Public Library will be hosting the Ecuadorian Consulate between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., and they will be there to assist with issuing and updating passports, consular cards, and other documentation for residents of the Ossining community and beyond. I want to thank the Ossining Library for once again organizing this visit and offering such a broad spectrum of programming and services to our diverse community. There have been some recent, there's been some information that has been spread recently that indicates that ICE has been targeting communities and is looking to do sort of these broad raids. We don't believe that that's actually going to be anything that's going to happen in this community, but we are aware of it, and that information has been out there in the public, and we are going to do our best to continue to offer the programming that we believe is supportive of our community. Saturday night, Westchester Collaborative Theater is hosting their 5th annual gala fundraiser at Shadamuck Yacht Club on Westerly Road from 6 to 10 p.m. Go to their website at wctheater.org for more information. World-renowned jazz vocalist Alexis Cole will be performing, and I hear they have some wonderful silent auction items. Also on Saturday, September 16th, join the garden party at Campwoods grounds from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., rain or shine. This is a fundraiser to help restore the World War I memorial on that property. The garden party will take place at Campwoods grounds in Ossining, which is at 37 Campwoods grounds on your GPS, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., rain or shine. I think I said that already. The family event will feature period music and dancing with renowned fiddler Henry Chapin. It will include arts and crafts for kids, entertainment, games, a parade around the grounds, and a ceremony honoring the World War I memorial located on the site. Food's available for purchase or bring your own picnic. Vendors include the Blue Pig ice cream, 6 Degrees of Separation beer, Walter's hot dogs, popcorn, and cotton candy. And all ticket holders are automatically entered into a raffle with various items, including tickets to the Bronx Zoo, a digital camera, and other gift certificates to local businesses and more. So campwoodsgrounds.weebly, that's weebly.com, is where you can go for more information. And then on Sunday evening, September 17th, from 5 to 8 p.m., please consider attending the annual Ossining Food Pantry fundraiser. This year it will be a little different. It will take place at the Briarcliff Manor on Studio Hill Road in Briarcliff. There's always a wonderful selection of foods as well as silent auction items for this very worthy cause. And I don't believe you have to RSVP. I think you can just show up and park on site this year, which is a little different than in the past. Also, please mark your calendars for a very important event coming up. The Westchester Library System is hosting Criminal Justice yesterday and today at 6 libraries across the county this fall, and the program comes to the Ossining Public Library on Thursday, October 5th. In collaboration with the Sing Sing Prison Museum and funded by the Westchester Community Foundation, this presentation by Ossining Village historian Dana White We'll take a look back at the prison's history and fast forward to what has changed and what hasn't about how we view incarceration in modern society. I hope you'll join me in welcoming panelists Cheryl Roberts from the Greenberger Center for Social and Criminal Justice, Roger Panetta of Fordham University, and our very own Sean Pica of Hudson Link for what promises to be an informative and fascinating evening. This free event will begin at 7 p.m. in the Boudars Theater, but getting there a few minutes early is advisable. And that is the end of my many, many announcements. Anybody else have any announcements?
One more.
Okay.
The Ossining Boat and Canoe Club on Sunday, the 17th, is having a kids fair with storytelling, magician, arts and crafts, Ossining Rocks, where you get to paint a rock with an inspirational message, and many other things. Oh, fishing, and tanks of fish where you can catch your fish and put it in a fish tank and talk to it for a while before you let it go, and many other things going on. So from 12 to 4, Ossining Boat and Canoe Club at the waterfront.
And that reminds me that one thing I forgot to mention was the Raku firing that took place at Henry Gordon Park on Sunday through the Cedar Lane Arts Center with Keith Gordon and many local artists and some people who came from farther than local to help with that. And it was really an incredible event. And I just remind you that Cedar Lane Arts Center has some new programs, so keep a lookout at the recreation brochure because that gets updated online on the recreation website to see what new programs are being offered over there. We have some really talented instructors and some great programs for the community in the arts who are interested in the arts. Okay.
Move on to departmental reports, and we welcome Comptroller Thomas Warren.
Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening, Supervisor, members of the Town Board. Before I begin, I'm actually going to offer you the opportunity to let Mary Ann go through the rest of the agenda so that she can get out of here on time, and I'll be glad to come back at the end of the meeting.
All righty. Would you like to take him up on that offer?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any public comments on any agenda items? Not seeing anyone. Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby approves the August 22nd, 2017 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby approves the September 5th, 2017 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated September 12th, 2017, in the amount of $461,887.68.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. So we do have a rather large voucher report this week, but it does include some significant bills. A new Ford F-550 for our highway department. That's a truck, for those of you who don't know what these words, letters, and numbers mean. And that was ordered back in February. And our August IMA payments to the Village of Ossining. And then we had some significant work at our Mystic Point sewer lift station that needed to be done. Any questions?
Councilwoman Feldman had a question about one of the charges, which the board will find on page 1 of 14. It's actually the second charge. It's for the summer concert series on August 25th, and that was Kuborikwa. So it's under the gentleman's name who was the head of the band.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Go a couple pages. Oh, never mind.
I think the other one that you mentioned was the Ford F-550 with dump body for the highway department.
Right. Sorry.
This is a purchase that was made by our highway superintendent for stick flags and war veteran grave markers from the company that he uses each year. Yes, that number is correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
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 All right. Any other questions?
No.
I
I'm
have
good.
one.
Okay.
Why do we have to buy topsoil? And we got it at the top, because I go get some myself. But I mean, it's loads of it over there.
has to be screened, that it hasn't been screened. They have to get screened topsoil, so,
They do?
yeah,
Why?
because that's what they use.
Okay.
That's a question that I can't give you
Okay.
a perfect answer for. You know, you'd have to ask one of our experts in either the Parks and Highway Department or the cemetery. But I can find out for you why they use it. But I know that they always purchase screen topsoil. They did have a screener. They had built a screener, but it A, takes a long time, and B, I think it actually broke, as I understand it. So they haven't been able to do their own screening. Plus, it takes a long time. So if they don't have the time to do the screening, then they need to purchase the topsoil. And at some point, they'll be able to, you know,
Okay.
hopefully reclaim some of it.
All right.
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
We have no correspondence to be received and filed. However, we do have monthly reports. Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby accept the following monthly report for the month of August 2017. Town Supervisor's Office, Town Clerk's Office, Tax Receiver's Office, and the Town Building Department.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay. We're gonna, we want to skip visitor recognition, and we'll just go bring Tom back up. And Madam Clerk, if you need to take off to get to those polls, we understand.
Very much.
And thank you very much. Thank you for the polls, and we look forward to hearing the results a little bit later on.
Afternoon.
Tom, did you get Tom's message? Thank you. Did you get Tom's message? No audio on Verizon. Okay.
Oh, my goodness. That is not good.
But they
Okay.
found the
Good evening.
Hi, Tom.
And how are you this evening? We're so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here, and for the record, I hope that we're done by 8:15. Anyway,
You hope that, say it again, you hope that what?
that we're done by 8:15 anyway.
Okay.
Thank you for asking me to come and talk about town finances. I always find that the way the budget is structured and the way revenues come in and the way trends take time to show up, it's always a good time to start looking at how you're doing financially come late July through August and into early September. And for a variety of reasons. Number one, for us, every August we go to the bond market usually. This year was no exception. And by going to the bond market, sometimes you have to have a Moody's bond rating, which necessitates preparing a lot of information and talking about the town's finances and where you think you're going to be at the end of the year and answering questions from Moody's. This year we didn't have to do that because we issued a bond anticipation note versus issuing a 20-year serial bond. And generally, serial bonds greater than $1 million requires a Moody's bond rating. You just can't sell debt on the market without a bond rating. But with a one-year note, like the way we went this year, even though the note was almost $2.7 million, we're able to sell that note without actually having a Moody's bond rating, which actually costs money for the town to actually have that bond rating. And we rely on our fiscal advisor to advise us whether or not it's advantageous to spend the money on a Moody's bond rating, hoping that that's going to result in lower interest. Given the relatively small amount of the note that we were selling this year, we felt that it just wasn't advantageous to actually have pay for a rating on that note. And as it actually turns out, after we had prepared the official statement, which is like a prospectus, that goes out to the investment community to try to sell the debt, we actually received 6 competitive bids, 5 of which were very close together, between 1.29% and 1.59%. And the 6th bid, which you might expect to be higher, was actually a lot lower. That low bid was 0.87%, which is well below 1%. And that was actually offered by Sterling National Bank, which is one of the town's primary banking our partners. And they had actually said that they actually priced their bid as a way to thank the town for being a good partner with the bank and to show some appreciation for the work that we do. So we accepted that bid naturally because it saves the most money for the town. And it was actually nice that they were trying to show some appreciation and recognize the relationship that we have with them. So that's one of the reasons to review the finances this time of year. Secondly, it's a good time to look at your budget and expenses and revenues and see how things are going this year, and to be able to react and modify the budget. Like for instance, and this did not happen this year, but sometimes when you have a bad winter, you have high overtime costs and you have high expenses for snow and ice purchases and road salts. And so sometimes you need to modify the budget for things like that. A couple years ago, the price of gasoline and heating oil went way up. It's going up again this year, as you've all seen by the price of gasoline in the past month as a result of the hurricane and the reduction in oil production. But also sometimes there's good things that you can react to, like you might have surplus revenues, or revenues or expenses might be lower than anticipated, and you might be able to make decisions as to spend some of these excess revenues. Or in this case, this year when we were talking about capital projects for the parks and for Dale Cemetery, I think that we as a collective body had talked about the pros and cons of issuing debt or using some of the fund balance to pay for some of these capital expenses, especially those that had a very limited life that would require issuing a bond with payback between 3 and 5 years. So I think that was a good decision based on the available fund balance that we had carried over from prior years, to use that to pay for some of the capital expenses. And thirdly, it may help us to develop a better budget for next year. We find that revenues are trending higher or lower than what we've budgeted in the past, or we're finding that expenses are higher than what we had estimated in the budget in past years. So given that, I had taken a look for tonight at revenues and expenses year to date. For revenues, there's really only a few revenues, large revenues, that I really consciously pay attention to. That's property taxes, naturally, sales tax and mortgage tax. There are some other revenues that are fairly large, but like, the AIM state aid, which is also, I still call it the per capita state aid, that's told to us in advance by the state. It hasn't changed year to year, so that's really not the type of revenue that I'm really concerned about monitoring. But this year, the mortgage tax payment, the first half payment arrived in June, and previously we had received in 2015 just under $499,000. Last year we had received a little bit more than $621,000. This year, for just half the year, the amount received was almost $600,000. So just in that one payment, we've almost matched what we received last year and exceeded the amount received in 2015. And the year's only half over, and we had budgeted $500,000. So, that's going to be a very good excess revenue that the town's going to receive in 2017.
And just to make a brief comment on that, we did decide and got legislation passed. I think that was signed. That was signed into law. Do we know if that was signed? Oh, it wasn't signed yet? Not signed yet, but legislation was passed. And again, thanks Assemblywoman Galiff for that help, and she's in the audience right now, to distribute that so that a percentage of it is going to the unincorporated town budget.
Right, and we've recorded it that way. You
Right.
know, I was just combining the two amounts
Right,
together.
no, I just
when
wanted
was
to
talking about.
mention it just to make sure, because even though Councilwoman Jeffrey is not with us this evening, I think she's under the weather, that was an issue that she was particularly focused on, so just wanted to make mention of it.
And on sales tax, so far we've received 2 payments. You know, these are payments that are a little bit slow to show up. The first quarter payment shows up in May. The second payment shows up in August. So here it is, you know, end of August, and you've only, you know what 2 of the 4 quarterly sales tax distribution payments are going to be. You know, it's consistent with what it's been the past couple of years. Overall, we haven't been seeing a very large increase in the sales tax distribution payment. It might generally increase like maybe 2 to 3% year to year. So we're on target for the sales tax distribution revenues regards to what we've received in prior years. And the only thing I'm going to comment about the property tax, and I know that Holly's here, and I know that you know, on the agenda tonight was the filing of the August monthly report. It's always interesting to look to see how unpaid tax balances compare this year to last year. You know, it's always good to see this year's payments less than the unpaid taxes last year. I did note that on the July monthly report, when unpaid taxes become tax liens and start that 2-year enforcement process until the town can go to auction, the amount this year was higher than the amount last year, but overall, it's still a very, very small percentage of the overall taxes collected. So I'm not really that concerned. And the other point is that from an accounting standpoint in the finance department, we don't know until after year end, 60 days, what the actual recognized real property tax revenue is going to be. We have to, you know, look at those collections in that first 60 days of the subsequent year, and anything that is unpaid in terms of property taxes has to be deferred until the next year, when hopefully it will be collected then. So that's why we sometimes see these revenue variances year to year. And unfortunately, because the town has to enforce the school taxes, which is the largest portion of the taxes received, you know, town taxes versus county taxes and school taxes, the town has to actually buy these unpaid taxes from the school district. And that's what in, you know, the past decade, you know, when the recession hit, that caused the fiscal strain on the town was the unpaid school taxes that were converted to tax liens that the town had to collect. And then as the recession was getting better, we collected all these tax liens, and it turned around the town's finances again. So that's it on the revenues. And on the expense side, and I know you wanted to talk about Munis as well. This was one of the great things about Munis is that I can run a report and I can export it to Excel so that I can faster sort it. You know, it's always good to look at expenses in terms of type of expenses, because things like payroll is usually consistent month to month because most people are salaried and it's the same amount of variances are in overtime. But, you know, year to date in the primary funds, the general fund, the town outside fund, and the highway fund, and I also included Dale Cemetery, the payroll expenses are where I would expect them to be this time of year. The contractual expenses, when I grouped those together, were generally where I expect them to be. Expenses are often on a lag because it takes time for the bills to be received and processed and presented to the board and paid. So this time of year, I'm expecting to see the percent of the budget spent as being between 58 and 67%, and that's where I'm finding the contractual expenses to be. So really nothing that surprises me in terms of the expenses that wasn't unforeseen. So I think the town is still in very, very good shape, and with these excess revenues that are coming in, especially the mortgage tax, I think it's going to be a very good year for the town.
Wonderful.
And on Munis,
Yeah.
Do you wanna-
talk about?
okay, you
wanna-
have any questions
okay.
I want to hear about Munis.
Okay, so but
do you have
nobody has any questions about
finances?
finances?
Okay.
No, okay, so then let's go on to Munis.
On,
Bringing good news.
Yes.
I'm just bringing the good news as a result of all the hard work done by everybody else.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, last year was when we started the Munis implementation process. I think we had a kickoff meeting in late March, and we started in April, and we had a couple of intense months working.
Can you just clarify for the audience at home what Munis is?
Munis is the new accounting system that the village and the town jointly purchased. The other system, which was KVS, which used to stand for Knowledge Value Services, that system was becoming a little bit unreliable. They weren't investing in the software. It was, some of the software programs like payroll and tax collection are kind of like a DOS environment. It's not the Windows type environment that is user friendly. And the company had been sold once and then sold again. And it was thought that Munis, the new system, would provide more useful tools to us in the finance department, as well as hopefully to some of the other departments as we get implemented. We are hoping to have a customer portal to allow customers to, log in and look at information, in the building department and look at their water bills on the village side and tax bills as well. That's a phase that we haven't implemented yet. We're taking this stage by stage. Last year was to get the general ledger up and running and get the budget module together, and it took all of last year, and we're live effective January 1st, 2017. This year, we started with the next phase, which was payroll, to get that live effective January 1st, 2018. So we actually had a 6-month break in early 2017 while Munis was trying to find us an implementer. But that also gave us an opportunity to actually become more familiar with using Munis for general ledger purposes and things like that, because having very limited training is different than actually using Munis on a day-to-day basis every day. And I think we've all learned a lot. We've learned how to, use it better and become more proficient at it. But it's just a big learning curve, and I want to give tons of credit to my deputy, Dale Ferreira, for the hard work that she's done to help us get to going live January 1st with the general ledger, and especially now with the payroll, because we decided this year that we were not going to rely so much on what Munis had envisioned for us to follow in terms of implementation. And Dale has, taken the lead to develop the data screens for payroll and to, get our information in terms of employees and all the deductions that you have to set up, do that yourself versus following the Munis suggested schedule, which actually would have cost more money in terms of manpower days. So we are saving money on the
Thank you,
payroll
Dale.
aspect. And next year, we envision starting the village water utility module, which is going to be a very big task as well because of all the customers that need to be set up and all the information about the individual customers. And, the other option was to start the tax module next, but because of Holly just starting the job and working with KVS, we wanted to give her, a bigger opportunity to become more familiar with KVS versus, just throwing another new software at her. So that would be 2019 that we intend to phase in the tax collection module. Are there any questions about Munis?
Yes. So how many departments in the town are currently using it?
I believe that all departments are using it for like accounts payable process. All the clerks, although some of the smaller departments like the town parks department, those are going to the supervisor's office to be input into the system.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Seniors don't use it?
on the town side, they're not quite so, much inputting stuff as on the village side where we have so many more vouchers to process. We're requiring most of the departments to input their own vouchers.
Are the departments that are using it finding it easy, or are they having a hard time with it?
I think they become accustomed to it. They had to learn a new system. It's just a different process. It's different menus. Before, like with KVS, you could just input a voucher and that was it. And then you can come back an hour later and input another voucher. Now the vouchers need to be input into a batch and then we post the batch. So, it's a different process, but, by and large, I
Feel the
think,
transition's going okay?
I think it is, yes.
Okay, and is Munis being supportive? Are they helping you if you have a challenge, or are
Yes,
they answering any questions?
They, have a helpline. They
Helpful?
have limited resources, just like everybody, but I think that they've been responsive for the most part to help us out and to answer our questions. One of our biggest challenges was before with KVS, we actually had two separate databases. The village had their own database, the town had their own database. We made a conscious decision that we wanted to use both the town and the village on one shared database. And I think the idea was, well, if there was ever going to be a chance of consolidation, then at least you're on the same database and it might make it easier. But it's presented challenges for us because even though we're sharing data on one common database, we still need to make sure that the town information is identified and separate from the village data so that when we run reports, we're only getting village data or town data. And it's even more critical on payroll because, we're two separate employers and there could be employees that are village employees and town employees, but we have to have, two separate sets of records for these employees so that we can do our fiscal responsibility and issue W-2s at the end of the year for town employees and for village employees and run the appropriate reports to report this data to the IRS.
Okay, but are you finding it easy enough to separate that and categorize it? Or are you learning?
No, this was actually something that we had to sort of develop, like last summer when we were working on the general ledger. We had a lot of discussions, and I think it was really, I'm going to give Dale credit, although I was, thinking critically as well, as to how we can, keep the data separate. Every record has to have like a flag to identify it as town versus village. And we're going through the same thing this year on payroll to, as we're trying to set up all the employees and all the deductions and trying to anticipate, how we need to set it up so that we are going to be able to keep town data separate from village data. I think we're accomplishing that task.
Okay, I heard that Mike O'Connor was having challenge getting itemized of like salt use, or was having trouble printing a report for previous years or something? Is that something you heard about?
I haven't heard about that. One of the, I don't know, I'll call it a challenge with Munis is that we had to designate certain printers to print direct reports. Like when we print a purchase order, either down in finance or from the supervisor's office, there's only a certain number of designated printers that we can print a purchase order from. Most everything else that the departments are working on in terms of, and some departments, especially on the village side, are actually generating their own purchase requisitions, which is actually a document that then becomes a purchase order. They're able to develop and print those documents on their own, but you have to print it as a PDF document. So when you generate anything like run a report, and if the highway department is on Munis and wants to run a budget to actual report, they have to print it as a PDF document, and then they can print it to their local printer. So I'm not.
Do you think that might be where his? You know what he's talking about?
And part of the other problem is, and we made a conscious decision on this last year. We were going to go live with Munis prospectively in 2017. We did not want to carry over all the detailed transactions from prior years onto Munis. And part of the process was we actually got a new server for KVS. Even though KVS isn't going to be our primary software, we still wanted a good new server because we still have a lot of payroll data going back 10 to 15 to maybe 20 years on KVS that we still need to access. We are not going to be transferring that data over to Munis, because if you transfer it over to Munis, then you have to make sure that the integrity of it is correct and that it still says the same thing on Munis as it said on KVS. So we're going to still use KVS for looking up old data. And, okay. The same type of decision was made on the general ledger. We only carried over fiscal year total expenditures by budget line so that we could run a budget to actual report, like the reports that we're preparing for the town board to use. When you do your budget review, you want to see prior year historical information. And so we're giving you the historical data in terms of total expenses by line, which we made sure that those numbers agreed with what was on KVS, but you can't drill down to see what was in those individual lines on Munis. If you want to know what the specific expenses were on any given budget line for 2016, we're still going to need to look at KVS.
Okay, so it's doable, but by using both systems.
Yeah, and maybe that's the problem that he had.
It sounds like the
that maybe he needs to know that he still needs to go to KVS to look at the individual detail expenses for 2016 and prior years, and that only current 2017 data is on Munis.
Right, that answers my question. I was wondering if we can compare apples and apples in years to years. But what you're saying is we can look at the old data in KVS and then compare it to the Munis data. And both of them will give reports, but not necessarily in the same format. Or on the same
When
printer.
you see the budget for, the supervisor's proposed budget for 2018, it's going to have, the proposed numbers for 2018. It's going to have the actual year-to-date numbers from 2017, which it's getting from Munis. And then it's going to have the historical actual expenditures for 2015 and 2014. It's also going to have the budget data if we so desire, but that's only total amount for the year, like, the office supply lines for the supervisor's office. The actual dollar amount is there, and it's accurate and agrees with what KVS is, but if during the budget meetings you say, what is in that number, then we got to look at KVS to see what the actual expenses were in terms of, its staples, its,
Okay, that answers my question. And is that working out for everybody in your opinion? That
Well-
everybody gets that and can do it?
Has yet to be determined.
Oh, okay, yet to be determined.
You know, the village departments are a little bit slower in turning in their budgets than the town was, and that might be in part because of the new manager. We were kind of waiting, you know, for some instructions. So I really haven't talked to Maddie to see how departments are doing, working
Getting there.
with Munis to help develop their budget request for next year.
We're getting there. I mean, I think overall that Munis has been a challenge. I think you're maybe sugarcoating it a little bit, Tom. I'm just saying. I think that first of all, any transition is difficult. Transitioning all of these various departments and all of the lines, and also at the same time trying to change the way that we do business, as you discussed, where we're looking at trying to have the town and village be more symbiotic in the way that finance deals with them, but also still keeping them separate, has certainly been a challenge. And doing that with a company that's headquartered in Maine has also been a challenge. I don't think that the supports were there in the first year that we were hoping. I think maybe at some point along the line, your department figured out that you just needed to go rogue a little bit and figure out how to do some of these things on your own and develop them on your own, because relying on Munis to do all of that for us wasn't necessarily working out. And that is why why we've gotten where we are, and why we were able to go live in January with the general ledger, and why we're now continuing to move forward, and why you're being very polite on camera about the relationship that we have with them, because probably it has gotten better as we've been now in implementation. And we've been utilizing it now since January. But I don't think that this is by any stretch of the imagination a perfect transition to a new system. I don't know that there is a perfect or better system out there. There may be, but we would still have had issues transitioning no matter what the system
No,
was.
I understand there's always transition issues.
But I do think that probably again haven't gotten the most that we would have envisioned from this company. That's my personal opinion. That's what I've seen. And I'm not exactly sure what we can do about that moving forward. But I think, again, we have to continue to work on each of the modules, and hopefully it'll get better and better. And eventually, our hope is that it's going to be much more user-friendly. I don't think it's gotten to that point yet. I mean, I know that it's supposed to reduce paper. I think I've seen much more paper, utilizing Munis than I had with the voucher system that we had with KVS, because you need to have a piece of paper, it seems, for every line of every, voucher. I mean, each purchase on a particular day that might have been batched
Oh, right.
previously. Now you have to have a separate.
Right. Like the perfect example is like the hardware store.
Right.
On any
Exactly.
given day, there might be 20 invoices.
Correct.
And in the Munis system, all 20 invoices get input, whereas
Separately.
with KVS, you start a voucher and you can throw in all 20, but you only have one voucher. Yeah,
Right.
That's a big change. And we've been working with some of the departments, and I've supported those departments that have decided, and these are village departments, that have decided that they don't want to input all 20 invoices, that they'd rather take a monthly statement from the hardware store, process that as one invoice, but they've got all those 20 individual invoices attached. And I've told them, you know what, that's your decision, but it also means that if you do that, you don't have the level of detail to see what those 20 purchases were. All you know is that you have a total amount that was purchased for the month. So, the village DPW department is inputting everything individually, and I agree. Before, it was easy to review that one voucher with 20 invoices stapled. Now it's 20 separate individual invoices that's input on a report. And I'm trying not to get slowed down in trying to, look at all 20, I'm trying to give the same level of attention that I would give it before. One of the things that we can do with Munis is this workflow. That's supposed to be the paperless environment
I'm waiting for it.
where all these
That's what I'm waiting for.
vouchers are entered, the invoices are scanned, and then it goes from department to department, and you look at everything on the screen.
Right.
My fear is that, for me, especially on the village side, given all the invoices and purchases that are made, that I'm going to be sitting there at my computer screen waiting for the next invoice to refresh itself on the screen. I don't know if that's really going to happen, but sometimes it's difficult to, actually stop what you're doing and make the change and start with workflow. Dale and I have talked about it, and we've talked about letting, like, maybe the police department that seems to be interested in workflow, let them do workflow and let the other departments still shuffle the paper and see how it goes. Maybe we'll let the town be the
Guinea pig?
start on this.
We could be the guinea pig. I'd be
So-
willing to be the guinea pig for that.
From a town point of view, do you think it's working out for us? Are we married to the software?
I mean, we have to give it more time. I don't see why you would want to transition to yet another software now. Again, I think
yet,
you're
I'm just-
always
you
going
think-
to have a problem when you transfer to a different software, especially for your finances. I don't think that
understood.
it's ever going to be easy. And I think that ultimately there's, Tyler Technologies is the one that Munis is part of Tyler, correct?
Yes.
Right? And that is also what our assessor's office uses. And they use that for the reassessment, and they also use IAS, I believe, and I think that was just the what the state chose to use for the
Property assessment?
for property assessment, and so that is. Hopefully, there's going to be synergies there that ultimately are going to work out for the best for us and make it all easier. But I do think that there's a multi-year transition time that you need to allow to see how everything flows. I don't think, I wasn't really pleased with the first year in terms of the support. I don't think that our department, that Tom's department got the support that they needed from Munis. I wasn't happy at all with
Can we
that.
reach out to Munis and have a conversation about that?
Oh, there have been
We've
Hundreds.
had many conversations with them.
Yeah.
Dale and I would have a phone conversation every Friday with the project manager at Munis, and we talk about some of these issues. Some of those phone meetings were very contentious. And then even after that, into 2017, we actually did continued conversations with Munis to talk about some of our disappointments and some of the things that we were, misled on. Our IT person, specifically asked up front about number of servers, and they said, you only need to buy one server. Well, we've had to buy 3 servers. One for the customer portal, a second one for this documents that would allow workflow documents to be saved and such. And then the third one is the main one that holds the software and all of our input data.
Okay, so it's been a little more expensive than we anticipated.
In certain aspects, and after the first year when we actually looked at what they billed for implementation of the general ledger, and this was one of my big disappointments, and the supervisor mentioned that they're located up in Maine. That's where most of their implementers came from. Some of them, thankfully, would drive down from Maine and stay a few nights and then travel back at the end of the week. We had one implementer that flew in from Detroit and then rented a car from New York City and then drove up here. And under the terms of the contract, you get to pay those expenses. Some of the general ledger modules and conversions we didn't use, so we were able to use those to pay for these extra travel expenses. And when they presented the time budget to me for implementation of payroll, I turned the tables on them. I said, you know what, you gave us a contract and you said that you could do it in 24 days. You spent 3 days already last year. Now you need to do it in 21 days, and they had submitted to me another 50-day budget. And I also told them that I wasn't going to allow all these travel expenses. And so other than the implementer coming down, I think, for 3 days on site, the rest of the training's been done by WebEx and webinars. So we saved money there. So we've more than saved what these additional expenses were last year. So, I think we're in a very good position in terms of staying within the Munis budget.
Okay. I mean, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in their company, but it increases my confidence, which I already had a great amount of confidence in your department, that you're troubleshooting and finding solutions and staying on top of them and not letting them get away with it. So I thank you for all the hard work that you and Dale are doing. Not real impressed yet with Munis. So, okay. I'll watch.
We're just gonna have to
Okay.
be a little
little
patient and
patient.
hope that our continued good work from our finance department. And again, thank you very much, Tom, and also
Thank
to
you.
Dale for all the work that you've done, and working with our departments to make sure that they're up to speed. And there's a lot more to be done, but we're very grateful.
And I hope that next year you'll be happy with your water bill. I get a lot of complaints about the current water bill because it's just not very informative. But, that's one thing that we're looking forward to with Munis is that we have more options in terms of, providing more information. And I hope the same thing happens for the taxes as well.
I personally look forward to hearing anybody say wonderful things about Munis. I have not heard that yet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Okay, I think that I'm just going to take a motion to adjourn into executive session for legal advice and personnel. Motion?
Moved.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, so much. Okay. We will be back at 16 Croton Avenue next Tuesday, September 19th, for our regularly scheduled work session. I look forward to seeing everyone then, and have a great week.